life friends. Thanks for joining me today for another great episode. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you for your support. If you are new to the channel, I am Dr. Trish. On this channel, I focus on discoveries, life, and inspiration. This includes our ancestry journey and life stories. If you are interested in those things, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I post new content. In today's episode, I'm going to share an adoption story full of surprise, mystery, and love. I recently interviewed Stephen Bassette, a radio personality who was told at the age of 10 that he was adopted, but didn't discover the full story until much later in life after taking an ancestry test and researching more about his biological family. Stephen has lived an interesting life. He and his sister are both biracial and grew up believing they were biological siblings. They were raised in the black culture by two black parents. Their adoptive father was the first black OBGYN in Ohio. Their aunt made history as one of the mathematicians whose lives are depicted in the movie Hidden Figures. Stephen, known as Freddie Red, has had a long history as a radio personality. Any of these facts about Stephen's life could fill up a book. However, there is something else interesting about Stephen's life, and I think he is the best person to tell his story. So I want to share with you the interview I had with Stephen. I hope you enjoy it. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you do, and leave a comment and share your thoughts. Did you always know you were adopted?
No. When I was about 9 years old and my older sister was 12, and it came because of pressure she was getting at school, kids making jokes and telling her, "Ooh, that's your mom and daddy. You must have been dropped off on the doorstep."
Oh,
And so, and she, at me at 9 years old, I really wasn't questioning it, but my sister did, and I guess my parents decided, okay, it's time to give him the story.
did you have the same birth parents or you did not?
We did not, but the story we were told was that we were biological brothers and sisters.
Okay.
We didn't find that out until later. My sister did a adoption search first on herself. That's when she found her family, which
Okay.
that's when we found out that I was not a part of it.
Awesome. So I know you took your ancestry DNA test, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but I want to give everyone, all of the viewers, an understanding of your story. So you were adopted. You found out when you were a child you were adopted, but did you always know that your birth mother was white?
Yes, because the story we were told was that my parents were a mixed race couple. Father was black, mother was white, and they were students at a local college here in Cincinnati, UC, were unable to take care of my sister. She was put up for adoption first. And then later on, they were in a car accident, which is why I was put up for adoption, and that they contacted them and told them that their beautiful daughter had a little brother now that was available for adoption, and I was adopted. That was, in a nutshell, the story.
But you found out later, sounds like that maybe some of that story wasn't accurate.
Right. And, God bless and both my parents. I understand the story and probably would have done something similar for a 9 and 12-year-old. I guess, honestly, the only issue I had with my parents, I took care of both of them until the very end, and they both lived to be 92 and 93 respectively.
That's amazing.
I'm just bummed out that one of them didn't say, "Hey, let me tell you the real story." I don't fault them for that, but I don't know.
What I'm discovering is a lot of times older people or from that generation, they do take things to the grave. We would be surprised how often that is.
Matter of fact, this is my father on the wall behind me here, Dr. Caesar Bassette, and he was Cincinnati's first fully licensed Black obstetrician gynecologist, where he could work in any hospital in Cincinnati. But he was also a Tuskegee Airman and taught Morse code to pilots. Wanted to be a pilot himself and decided not to after a couple of his students didn't make it home from a training mission. He decided to stay on the ground and become a doctor instead of a pilot.
That sounds amazing. I know you have an amazing story of how you grew up too. We're going to get there because I do want to hear more about that, you know, because it sounds fascinating. But I want to cover first your birth story. Right. So I understand that your mother went to a Catholic home for girls in the early 1960s, correct?
Yes. Catherine Booth.
Catherine Booth. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you know about Catherine Booth and how that experience was?
Catherine Booth, you know, the reputation it had, I remember growing up, is like that was the place where unwed mothers went, you know, mostly young girls. And they were allowed to go to school while they were there. So it was a place they could go to, you know, to supposedly not interrupt their life while they had this child. But it was also known for, you know, most of the girls who went there would give up their children for adoption. So it was, you know, I guess it was like a double-edged sword. It was a good thing that it was there, but you wonder, you know, or back in those days, a young mother keeping a child was, I guess, unheard of compared to nowadays. You know, there wasn't the support back then. There weren't government agencies and a way to the future that these young girls could see. And, you know, I think they were probably easily coerced into giving up their children. And probably a lot of these children were of mixed race, because we're talking, at least for me, I was born in '62. So, and I know of other friends and other people who came from Catherine Booth who are of mixed race. So, you know, we were mixed race kids. That was taboo in that age, you know, the late 50s, early 60s.
Well, let me confirm this with you. I heard that your adopted father worked at Catherine Booth. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was an obstetrician gynecologist. He delivered He delivered babies.
All right. So how do you think he heard about you or even got the opportunity to adopt you?
Well, I mean, I think that association made it easier, of course. I think him being a successful physician and with a stable life, I don't know what the, you know, adoption standards were back then, but I would assume that he was a pretty high candidate. And like I say, I mean, you're looking at a time when a lot of people, they may have been having trouble placing mixed race kids back then. You know, who was going to take them?
How much information do you know about your birth mother?
Because of my search. I found out that she was from Dayton, Ohio, which is about 40 miles up the road here from Cincinnati. I was her first child. She had two other sons. The second son has passed away since. The third son, Anthony, lives here in Cincinnati now and not far from me. And we get together regularly. We are in touch.
Okay.
And, to be honest with you, I'm still getting stories and information from him when we get together and do things. You know, we talk, you know, about my birth mother. One thing I did find out from him is that she talked about me her whole life. I guess she did. I believe she regretted that decision and always wondered.
Did you start your search after taking the Ancestry DNA test, or were you searching before you even took the test?
The search came before the test, and there was a number of false starts for me, and I kicked myself in the butt because if I had followed through when I first began the curiosity, I probably would have met not only my mother, but my brother. Once you reach a certain age, you were allowed access to your original birth certificate, which is real important to people who have been adopted, because what we have, what I've used all my life, is the secondary, I guess you would call it, uh, adoption paperwork, birth certificate. Until I reached a certain age, I could not get access to that original, which had my mother's name. It had an address and some other information. Now, here's the interesting thing. I went on Facebook and I got with a group called the Adoption Support Angels.
Mm-hmm.
They got back with me within a couple of days. They told me, and it was all no video chatting, just all through Messenger on Facebook. And I sent them pictures of the original birth certificate, my new birth certificate, and amazingly, within an hour
Wow.
after connecting, this person with the Adoption Support Angels was sending me pictures of my mother, my birth mother,
Oh my goodness.
my brothers, aunts, Facebook pages. It started hitting, and I was like, wow. I believe if you go in Facebook and search Adoption Support Angels, I'm almost positive that's the exact name of it, but it should come up. I don't know how they do it, but I mean, they are very good. They're I guess internet sleuths, you call detectives. Situation there, it's a great group. I would recommend that to any of your followers or people who are interested. And my search for my father came through ancestrydna.com,
Mm-hmm.
because I linked up with people that were closely related, and I have someone who looks like they are my sister, but she's refusing any kind of communication. And that's another thing I would warn people. Not warn, but it's kind of, I went into this knowing, doctor, that this could be a Pandora's box. And I didn't do this. And one of the reasons I hesitated was because I had so much respect and love for my parents. And my parents were my parents. I mean, I grew up, that's my dad and my mom. So I had so much respect for them that really is what made me hesitant about doing this search, because I felt it would be disrespectful. So
Yeah.
I just felt like I would wait. So it was after they passed when I started to make these moves.
Were you able to discover who your birth father is?
No, this is a big mystery. Like I say, I know who the family is, and I made contact with them and have spoken with them. And honestly, here's where the Pandora box, because it's my appearance seems to have shaken the family tree a little bit. And I'll leave it at that. Strongest option that we have, he would have been, I think, around 60 years old at the time of my conception and birth. And my mother was 14.
Oh, wow.
Could that have happened? Yes. But there's another weird connection within the family and someone who was around 22 years old. And trying to put together possible scenario and not having anybody to talk to.
Right.
Nobody still alive that might hold a particular piece of information or, some little tidbit that could help you. Honestly, and here's the other Pandora's box element to this, where, and it kind of, it was a little stinging blow to me, because one of the stories being told on my mother's side is that I was a child, I was a result of a rape. So that's kind of hard to stomach and digest. However, my brother, who grew up with my mother, and he says he doesn't believe that. And I give him a lot of weight, not just because he's my brother, and boy, and what a joy. God bless being able to connect, with my blood brother.
Right.
After all these years. And we have such a strong connection. Oh my God, we're so much alike. It's weird.
Yeah.
Having grown up apart. And my second brother, who passed away, he had a big musical connection. He was in a band. I think we would have really hit off.
I am going to be talking about this genetic connections. You know, some people believe everything you are is because of how you were raised. And then there are others like me who believe, you know, that your genetic, your DNA part of you has a big influence on who you are, right? And I really believe that we inherit things from our birth families that make us who we are, other than just looks, right? I mean,
I agree.
I really believe that. So it's interesting that you say that about your brother. Now, as far as your mother, when she went on and had more children, did she have biracial children or did she go on to have white children?
No. Now her sister did have a biracial child, who I found out is in jail now for killing somebody. But she did not. Her second child was within her race,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would say, and also the third, my brother. But I don't think that she stopped. According to my brother, she still dated, still had many, black friends as she, grew up. White folks from up Dayton, rural Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was an unheard of thing. And that was definitely taboo at the time to be,
Right.
romantically involved with someone not of your
Yeah.
race. I ended up having a damn good life.
Now, do you wish you would have known your birth mother when you were much younger, even when you were a child?
It's a good question. Yes and no, because I know how her life turned out. Would I want to have been around her as she battled addictions and other things? No. And when I was 9 and when I found out that I was adopted, it was a while, to be honest with you, before that even sunk in.
Mm-hmm.
That was my dad and that was my mom. I didn't know any different. I was adopted at birth. I didn't know anything different. I mean, that's my mommy and daddy. Yeah. So no, I can't say that I ever wished. And then even when I came to a realization, all right, that there could be someone out there, my mother and father, that I never met.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't something that I dwelled on. And I think because I had such a great childhood and my mother and father were great parents and my sister was a great sister. And even when we found out that, it's just like weirdly, it did not affect me at all. And it did not affect our relationship. Like for us to find out in our midlife, that we are not blood brother and sister, which we thought we were all our lives. It didn't affect us at all. It's like, okay, yeah, we do look similar, except that she's like really short. She's only like 5'2" with heels on. She's gonna kick my ass if she ever sees this interview. When people would see my mother and father, and my father was very short statured. I'm like, I was 6'3" from the time I was like 13. But no, it's very obvious. I mean, my father's very, not very dark skinned, but dark skinned. My mother was brown skinned like you, about your complexion. Yeah, to look at us, you would know genetically there was no way possible.
So, but it sounds like they took great care of you and your sister. First, I know that your father, your adopted father, who is your father because he raised you, he was an OBGYN. Did your mother stay home with you and your sister, or what was her profession? She stayed home? Okay.
She met my father when he was in medical school. She was in school to be a nurse. And I believe she did graduate. But my father was old school, like, stay at home and take care of the kids. So she was a stay-at-home mom, but she was a volunteer / activist. She was very involved in the community, very involved with breaking down barriers. One of her very good friends who she met when she first came to Cincinnati, Dr. Marion Spencer, she was very instrumental in integrating Coney Island swimming pool here in Cincinnati years ago. She was an activist. And I think that's where my mother got a lot of it from and a lot of her spunk and a lot of her drive. I learned to swim back in 1964. We took swimming lessons in Norwood, Ohio, which was like, black folks used to call that was Klan territory. No black people lived in Norwood. Black people just didn't go to Norwood. And here we were getting in the water with me. So, yeah, my mother was very much, uh, she was a house mom, and she was the best mom ever. Yeah, she got me involved in different things. And when I look back at that now, and I think that was her way of, which honestly, I believe this is where a lot of white families who adopt Black children fall short. They don't keep their Black children, biracial children, whatever, in touch with their Black side. You see them in the grocery store, hair all messed up. No, but I think what my mother did, she was trying to put me. I mean, we grew up. My neighborhood here, Avondale, Black neighborhood. I went to Black school.
Right.
I mean, I grew up Black, blickety black. And so, but she kept me in things, Boy Scouts, art museum, just a lot of the things that she got me into were in either mixed or I was the mix in these particular order. I was the Black kid that was making the diversity there. But
did you always consider yourself Black, or was there ever a time where you thought, I'm biracial, or I should identify as biracial?
No, I always saw myself as Black. I can probably find some pictures of me trying to wear an afro. And my hair.
Yeah, I see.
I mean, it kind of, I was able to kind of maintain an afro, but no, but I had fights a lot. I had to deal with, amongst Black kids, my Black peers, I was too white to be Black. And when I would be in situations around my white peers, I was too Black to be white. And there was always conflict for me. I got green eyes. I just was weird. I think I always saw a Black kid in the mirror, but I saw a very different looking Black kid.
Uh-huh.
But there were also other kids like that time. So I kind of just saw myself as being just a light skinned Black kid.
Yeah,
I was a red bone. I was high yellow.
Right. Uh-huh.
I mean, and I was more accepted, I think, with Black kids than white kids. White kids were very hesitant to look at me and say that, you could be white.
Right.
It was, no, you're Black. Within the Black community, it was always a question. And the thing I used to hear the most, and usually in broken English, is you Black or white? No matter where I went, my mother was from St. Louis. I'd be out there. I remember as a kid at this baseball game, and all these little girls were around me, touching my hair. Is you Black or is you white? That was always the question. And then once I said I'm Black, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then they would accept. Yeah. But that never even happened in any of my atmospheres that I was put in our hands with white kids. Yeah. Never had a white kid. Well, they would ask me, but I would tell them that, I'm Black.
Mm-hmm.
So I should have thought, damn it, if I had been thinking back then, I would have said, yeah, I'm white.
Just to see their reaction.
Just to see, like, how would they have treated me?
Right.
And to be honest with you now, I sent you my Ancestry DNA. I mean, I'm like 21% Nigerian, I think, which is my dominant DNA. But then there's like 20% German, 20% Europe, So I wonder, could I go? And then I joke with my brother about this. I was like, look, man, I want you to take me out with you, to the club sometime. I'm gonna put on a flannel shirt and a John Deere baseball cap. I want to see what it's like just to be white for a night.
Uh-huh.
I should do like a blog, White for the Night.
Now that would be a good one, right? Now that would be good. When you received your results, knowing that you were 63% European or white, and did it change the way you saw yourself?
Yeah, I started eating string bean casserole. No, it didn't. it was just it was just exciting. I mean, it definitely affected me because as you can see from the what I sent you, I mean, knowing my exact breakdown the way it is, I'm like, wow, like I've got like Irish in me. I can wear kilts now. Um, it made me more aware of my own diversity,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me more because I pretty much lived my life being one that, and it's so cliche to say you don't see color, but I do give people the chance to prove themselves to be people. You know, it's never mattered to me what somebody was. You know, I've been to a lot of foreign countries where I couldn't even speak the person's language. I had to learn how to communicate with them. But you know, I've always given people the benefit of the doubt that they're a person, which would be nice if everybody did that. But knowing my exact makeup was very interesting. It just made me feel like I wanted to flaunt it. I wanted to walk into an Irish pub and say, "Hey, I'm one of you." Uh, I've even thought about. I said with Nigeria being my dominant trait, I'm gonna. I've been dropping hints to my kids that I want a Nigerian soccer uh, shirt, the Nigerian national soccer team. I want a
Mm-hmm.
shirt with get it with the percentage of Nigerian as the number on the shirt.
Right.
And I
That's
would have to
funny.
do that. I was thinking about doing that like for all of my DNA.
Since your dad was a doctor, an OBGYN, I imagine that made your life a little different, right? Because I don't know, you can speak on it, but do you feel like you had more opportunities than you might have had if you stayed with your birth mother?
Absolutely. The emphasis on education, I'm sure, was stronger with my parents than it would have been with my birth mother. Um, and as I alluded to earlier, there were some addiction problems with my mother that was probably made life, kind of hell with her.
Mm-hmm.
And my younger brother has alluded to that. That you're the lucky one. You got out, he said to me.
Yeah.
But and I don't want to take anything away from my birth mother. I really don't know her, but I think she was a good woman. I think, and then I have guilt feelings about that. That maybe having to give me up like that may
Mm,
have contributed to her
right.
battle with addiction.
Yeah. Did she eventually turn her life around?
Uh, I think so to a certain degree, but I think the toll it took on her, more than likely the continued drinking, which I think she did.
So I also heard that your aunt, your father's sister, was one of the women from Hidden Figures, the true story of Hidden Figures, I should
Yeah,
say.
yeah. And I should have that information where you can go to find it, but her name is Pearl Bassette. She was a math genius. And the funny thing when we found out, it's like, I mean, it was like a big secret. No, we never heard about this as kids. I was talking with my sister. We knew that she was a school teacher. I definitely knew she was very good at math because one of my fondest stories, my Aunt Pearl, she was a cook. She could throw down in the kitchen. And I found out at a young age that if you wanted to eat, you hung out in the kitchen with Aunt Pearl and helped her. So I'd be in there slicing up stuff for her, eating the whole time. If I got to slice up some cheese, I'm eating some. But one of the things that I remember as a kid, she was always on me about the multiplication table, just always testing my brain with different things. If you hung out with Aunt Pearl, she was going to teach you something. Yeah, she was one of the ladies that were involved with that program.
So I could tell education and everything was a high priority in your family.
It was, and then I didn't go to college. I went to 1 year of Morehouse, and then I got out and got into the military, and then I became a DJ. So that
Yeah.
was, man, that my mother hated that. That
Mm.
like I said, the one thing that I did to disappoint my mother was not getting to college. She would even tell me, "That's all. It's fine. You doing that? You playing over there, Mr. DJ, but you need to get that paper behind you." And you know what? She was right. I should have stayed in college. Should have got my degree. But
Well, it sounds like you had a successful life,
yeah,
and And you turned out very well. I think your birth mother would have been very proud.
Yeah. In closing, I would like to encourage anyone who has the ability to find out their real story, because it is interesting, and it is good, and it is a kind of a weight off my shoulders to know who I really am. I carried that around with me for many years, uh, telling people, yeah, my mother was white, my father was black, but I never really knew, because I only heard it. So finding out your real story is a good thing. The Adoption Support Angels, I think it's a great organization. You have to check with your local, wherever you're from, because I'm sure you have a nationwide reach doctor. The laws are different in every state as far as access, but a lot of people don't know. They probably have access to their original birth certificates and don't even know it. Right. And that is your first step to finding out who you really are.
You know what? I think you need to write a book about your life, because
Dr. Trish, I thank you and for your forum and for what you're doing, just to get people talking about this and getting them interested in it and finding out. It's a good thing. It is a Pandora's box, but hey, life is a Pandora's box.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I really appreciate your openness with us. And I wish you all the continued success and all the best along your journey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.